Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Kitchen time, getting late in the afternoon, and I was bored. There's nothing on the telly, so thought, well, we'll do some repotting. This is 3 of my Latoria types. Well, I think that's a Latoria type, macrophyllum. Come on, memory. Oh, well, if it's not, it's going in with them anyway. Long suffering. All of my Latorias did badly in the heat wave, quite badly. I'm surprised they managed to make it, but nonetheless they're still with us, if not as good as they used to be. That weighs nothing, yeah? And what does it look like? It looks wet, doesn't it? That's the problem with algae in your pot, especially if it starts turning into moss. I know that that is bone dry by its weight. And this is my Roy Tokunaga White Knight. Now, lost a lot of leaves, hardly any left in fact. Yeah, I mean, I've got 3 leaves left on the whole plant. But what I do have is 3 new growths. Nice little one there. That one's pushing on nicely, and so is that one. Right? So this lead here actually aborted that new growth. But luckily it shot out from the new growth and from behind it. So this lead is still successful. And then coming out the other side, we've got another lead here. So I've got 3 growths on this. I don't expect to find a nice, strong, healthy root system, but I'm expecting a new one to grow very soon because I've got 3 new growths. Oh. I was going to say, why won't it come out? It's because we have a root system under the pot, coming out the bottom. So what have we got then? Oh, that feels quite warm. Look, we've had quite a lot of sunshine today. Now the moss on the top I'm happy with. In fact, I might even keep hold of some of it. The trouble is it will go down into the pot as well. If you have moss on the top of the pots, as you water it, you can wash spores down into the media, and then it can start growing around the edges of your pots too. Well, as suspected, that's not a brilliant root system, but although these roots don't look good, they're not soggy. Well, the ones in the middle are. Well, that's the oldest part of the plant there. But I'm totally relying on this plant for a new set of roots to come soon with those new growths, because by the time these old ones are taken off, it's not going to leave a lot. It's not going to leave hardly anything, in fact. It's hardly any of these roots are good. Still, why the root system's not so good is difficult to say. I can understand why the top growth got lost. But I think I might take the back end of that plant off. Those 3 oldest bulbs there are where the plant starts from. So it moves away from that area, so I could take those 3 off. That'll tidy it up a little bit. And I'll take that off before I start cleaning the roots up. Otherwise I'll be cleaning roots off and cutting them off. That's not a good root system by any means. Some of these roots aren't too bad. They'll still be capable of hydrating the plant. You know, they're not soggy. They're not brilliant, but they're not totally dead. Whereas ones like this are, you know. These are dead roots. When they fall apart like that and just come off in your hand, they're not alive, are they? Interesting things going on in the centre of the plant, but that would be the old part. You know, that would have been what was there last time it was repotted. Anyway, that'll have a clean up under the sink. This one will get a good spray with hydrogen peroxide before it goes under the tap. Like I said before, if you're using 3% hydrogen peroxide, I was talking to somebody at the show who uses 9%. What was all I could get? There we go, steady. Yeah, it's a bit strong. I mean, it can be watered down, I suppose. I mean, H2O2, well, the first part of that is H2O, isn't it? Is water, so I'm sure you can add water to it and water it down. Anyway, that'll have a spray before it goes under the tap. For the simple reason, if you're using 3% hydrogen peroxide, that's right on the boundaries of actually having anything useful and it not working at all. So it needs to work. And if you're spraying a wet plant, you're going to instantly dilute it, aren't you? So it's no longer 3% anymore, because it will mix with the water that's on the plant. So if you're going to use hydrogen peroxide at 3%, do it on a dry plant, which is why none of these have been watered, although I suspect one of them's still wet even though it hasn't been watered. So anyway, enough roots for it to survive in this area. These aren't too bad, and the back end of the plant will probably come off. So let me put that to one side, somewhere dry, not in the sink. Alright, so that's that one done. And don't get me tags muddled up, that's highly unlikely. The three plants are quite different. Right, this one is Nora Toganaga crossed with Aberrans. So this Toganaga name gets around quite a bit with different names on the front of it, but that's crossed with the species Aberrans. This did bloom, I believe, once. I can't remember, because if it did, it was a long time ago. And this plant really has gone down. You know, this was the best, strongest growth here, and it's losing its leaves there. And I don't think there's any signs of new growth on this one yet. Well, this really hasn't got a lot in the pot, is it? Well, that'll explain why it's not growing very well. The plant's not going to grow well without a root system, is it? Now I've got to make my mind up why these haven't done so well. Quite heavy on the moss, that was. And that was a mistake on the grounds that you know, when I read up about Latorias before I got any, you know, continuous growers come from warm areas, you know, so I thought, well, if they've got to grow on through the winter, I need a media that's going to keep them moist. And our survey said they might come from warm areas, but they come from the two-season parts, where they get a wet season, where they do get soaked, and it's warmer, and then they get a cool season when it's not raining as much. Cooler season, let me say, but it's a drier season. So as those temperatures drop down a bit, they are quite dry compared with how they are in the summer. And I don't think I can find a decent root on there. I really can't. Well, that one is going to struggle. It really is going to struggle. See, this one seems okay down here, but if you look at the top of it, it's already pulled away. It's hanging on by a thread. So I've got very little to work with there, if anything at all. I'll probably end up having to leave some of the older root bases on, just to give me something to pot, if I pot it. Anyway, a good spray again. There's not a lot of roots left on that at all. It might get going again. I always say don't give up on a Dendrobium. Even when all the leaves have fallen off, don't give up on it, you never know. Right, that's that one done. That was still damp, that one. So I can see the problem already. I can see a pattern. My media had far too much moss in it for my cold winter temperatures. Plants shouldn't get that cold. And when the temperatures do cool down in the areas these are found, it's dry, or drier. You don't get the heavy rains. I forgot to say what this one was. This was the where's my tag gone? What do I do with that then? Oh, this is Macrophyllum variety Turnetense. And look at the weight of moss in here. But this piece, is this two plants? I don't remember planting it as two plants. This one has still got some roots. So although the plant doesn't look too happy, but look at the amount of moss in here. Well, there's a lot of the problem then. Just, you know, on reflection, with what I knew then, this was a good idea. With what I know now, no it isn't. I'm just trying to see if, once I get enough of this out, is this two plants? Yes it is, I thought it was. I seem to remember that being two plants actually. So what have we got? we've got the back end of a plant with far too many pseudobulbs to keep for the front end. I mean, at the end of the day, I've got a pseudobulb with one leaf that's relatively new, that one, and another one next to it with 2 leaves. But even these roots under that new bit, they're just falling apart. They're not good, but some are. So I have got some roots. But the oldest part of the plant just as well come off, or a lot of it. I don't need to keep it all. Again, this is damp. This hasn't been watered for a week at this time of year. It's still damp. Should be drying off quicker than that. So learn the hard way. As long as you learn, don't keep doing the same thing. I mean, if I was to put that in small bark, half and half with sphagnum moss, I should be basically taken out down the bottom of the garden and shot and put under the hedge for repeating a problem. You know, see your problems, try and work out why something. Oh, this one's got, oh no it hasn't, I was going to say this one's got a nice new growth, but it's algae on a root. See, that lost a new growth there at some point during last year. But whether that's light burn, I was giving these quite bright light last year, and again, you know, if something comes from a tropical forest, not a deciduous forest, the leaf cover doesn't change that much, but it would be probably at its heaviest in the rainy season, which is also the growing season. And these were up on a shelf that was far too high. They were getting too much light. And it was the intensity of the light every single day during that heat wave, plus our longest days. I mean, where these come from, their longest day would be 13 hours, not 16. Okay, you know. These got too much light, but we do have roots on this piece. That's not bad. That's not bad. And this was obviously grown on from a seedling at some point. Tiny little pseudobulbs gradually getting bigger, and a lost new growth. I think there's a new growth just starting there inside that sheath. Okay, we've got some pieces to work with. Now I'm going to go and have a think now, and then we'll have some action. It does pay to do it that way round rather than have some action and then go back and think on it later. Yeah. So I'm going to have a think as to what I want to do with these. Some of that will be dependent on pot sizes and thinking about how I want to look after these. They're not going in such bright light, that's definite, and that takes them down off of a top shelf onto a next shelf down, which will also be a little cooler. So I need to have a think. I'll be back. Okay, before I make any major decisions, I'll set fire to the place. Woof! It's just a sterilising process. The alcohol on its own, unless you leave it to evaporate quickly, it doesn't really do the job. But if you flame it, it also dries it off quite quickly, and make sure they're not hot. Yeah, I know I've just got my fingers all over it, but I did wash my hands. Right, before I make any major decisions, I do want that back end off. So let's see if my scissors will do it, or do I need to get the big stuff out? No, I think they'll go through okay. Yep. Right. Well, we don't have a lot to work with here, I'm afraid. Any root that's detached itself from near the base and showing the stringy bit, there is no point in keeping that. But the roots around the outside, some of them are okay. So even though they're showing the stringy bit, like this one here, it's got a branch that's showing its stringy bit, so we can trim the branch but leave the root. Oh, that one's gone. So is that one. It's mainly the ones in the centre of the plant, which would be the old part of the plant. Those would be the roots to go first. That's how it works. I don't want to take too much off though, so I'd be pushing my luck. I'll say I've got a lot to work with here. I don't think I'm going to take much more than that off. See, there's a stringy bit on the end there, but the root's not too bad back there. Oh, that's a soggy one. That's a shame. Let's look at. See, that's a soggy one in the middle. And yet there's a lot of root there. I'm going to leave it. It might branch. Although it is a bit soggy. That one's definitely gone. And that's probably all I'm going to do on this one. I have to leave something to get it in a pot. Any stringy bits on the end can come off, and hopefully that will trigger some branching. What about that big one there? It's not too bad. I think that'll do for that one. That little one there can come off. Again, that's the back end of the plant. It doesn't leave a lot. Oh, you're gone. Well gone. So I'd like to take even more off. I'd like to take this piece off as well, but this still has a leaf, and if it's got a leaf it can help feed the plant. So it can stay there for now, maybe next time it gets repotted. So that's that one done. Don't see anything else wrong with it, and as I've said, it's got 3 new growths, and they will produce a new root system in the not too distant future. Obviously the largest one will probably be first, followed by this one, and then the last little one there. But I've got 3 new growths on that, so there's good hope for that. We'll work with that one. That's the larger of the 3. Let's see what else we got. Aye, aye, aye. Right. So I thought I'd got the plants in a muddle, but no, I haven't. It's funny, I have actually got plants muddled up so badly in the past that I've had to go back to a video to find out what it's called and then put the right tag back on it. We'll always wait till it blooms, I suppose. Right, let's see what's going to be left of this one then. Not a huge amount, but something, no doubt. Hands. I'm not used to working with. I don't know what I'm worried about. You know, if I was mucking about with oncidiums with horrible purple rings everywhere, you know, your sterilisation and cleanliness need to be paramount, because you can spread that around. But none of these have got that sort of problem. One of the pseudo bulbs on one of the plants, I went to pull it off and it squished. Yeah, so I instantly stopped with my fingers and reverted to the scissors and cut, making sure they were sterilised, because if you've got soggy pseudo bulbs, you've got some sort of bacterial infection going on, and that will spread like hell. And the easiest way to spread it is to let the liquid come out of the problem pseudo bulb and get all over the rest of the plant, and then not clean it off. That's a good way to spread that around. God, I'm really not going to be left with a lot here, am I? Now this has got some tiny little old seedling back bulbs. But the trouble is with the, well, I won't say the trouble, I do believe, unless it's actually gone and rotted, I do believe that is a little tiny, where's my camera? On the end of my finger there. I do believe that's a little new growth. It looks discoloured, but it might be that it just hasn't pushed out far enough to go green yet, so it's still in its purpley browny colour. that they often have when they first shoot out. And I am going to leave the old bulbs on this, even though they are seedling bulbs, because Latorias can sometimes surprise you and shoot. Oh, well, that one fell off. Can sometimes shoot out from strange places. Actually, it isn't worth leaving those on, quite honestly. They're too small to be of any use to the plant. And you can see the style of the plant is to grow a thin piece with a bulbous piece at the top with the leaves. So, you know, they're obviously seedling pseudobulbs. And if I hadn't got the scissors on it, it would have come off with a tug anyway. And most of these have gone. Doesn't leave a lot, does it? So we're left with 3 bulbs, a possible new growth, maybe, and next to no roots. So that's what's left of that one. But I've always said, never give up on a Dendrobium. It'll surprise you. And if there's any signs of new growths, or new growths not too far away, you will get your roots back. Obviously, for a while, the plant's not going to grow vigorously because it's not going to get hydrated very easily with lousy or non-existent root system. It'll be totally reliant on supporting itself by photosynthesis for a while, and then eventually, hopefully, it'll get some roots. So that's that one. Alright, so then the other 2 are the same plant. One doesn't have a bad root system. Again, seedling pseudobulbs tucked down in here, but they are so close to where the 2 growths with leaves are on. If I get the scissors in there, I could damage the area that the new growths have come out from. So they're going to stay. The only one that's definitely going to go is that one, because it's discoloured, looks like a bit of rot's got in there, and that one. I will try and get those out. And let's get the other one on the scene while I'm at it. Same with this one, the back area here where all the little seedling pseudobulbs would be difficult to cut without getting close to the front of the plant. They might just pull off. Yeah, they are, they're just coming off. I think, although it may well recover, we've had a bit of rot at the base here. This is the consequences. That looks a little bit cleaner. There's another tiny little one in there. If they're just falling off like that, then the rhizome that was joining it can't be much good, can it? Right, no signs of new growth on these 2, or new roots. Anyway, let's set fire to the house again. So I'm being a bit over cautious for these Dendrobiums, but it's the fact there is signs of some rot in places, and if any of that is bacterial, it'll spread. So, you know, I am making sure that in between the types of plants, we're having a bit of a clean up in between. Right, so now where that new growth failed, there's no point in leaving that empty. It's basically just the sheaths that surrounded the bulb. Well, that's a good place for water to sit without ever getting used. So that's better out than in. What else have we got? These little roots on this one aren't too bad. I'm not going to do much with that one at all. See, that root there is that's good. I was just going to say that root there has completely come away from the base, but it was a little tiny one that was stuck to it, and the main one is actually okay. What have we got round here? We've got a dodgy end. Is it a dodgy beginning? No. That'll do for that little one. I'm not going to bother cleaning up between these two. Actually, I am. If you look at some of these bulbs, when you've got discoloration like that at the top of a bulb, that's not going to get better. So it either stays the same or gets worse. And the way to stop it getting worse is make sure it's not there. But again, you know, between plants, and if you want to be really fussy and you cut what looks like a rotting pseudo bulb off, you should clean your scissors between each cut. I don't ever go to those extremes. But, you know, this goes out on YouTube, people watch and comment. You've got to do your scissors in between those two plants. Yes, dear. But it is important, you know. You'd cuss if you didn't do it and then found out that one plant went down with a serious bacterial infection, and you know flipping well that you'd cross-contaminated two plants. You know, you wouldn't be very happy then, would you? So it's better to be safe. I think I might have to get another pair of scissors soon too. I do sharpen my scissors quite frequently, but there comes a time, because the unless you pay an absolute fortune for some of the bonsai tools, it's not just the edge of the blade that's hardened, the whole blade is hardened, not just the edge. Well, if you get the cheaper ones, they're only hardened on the edge. You know, the best metal is just along the edge, and the rest of it isn't so good. And if you keep sharpening your scissors, eventually you wear away that hardened bit and you're into the softer metal. So you've either got to sharpen them a hell of a lot more often, or get another pair, quite honestly. And although these are bonsai shears and they are stainless steel, they're not the highest quality ones, because I can't afford to pay 40-50 quid for a pair of scissors. You can pay an awful lot of money for bonsai tools, but if you do, they will last longer than you do. So you get what you pay for. But getting a reasonable pair of stainless steel bonsai trimming shears, these are, and they come to a very fine point, and you can see possibly on the camera that they don't come to a fine point. They're slightly separated now. Now that's where I've probably cut something too thick and slightly bent them. They're quite easy to straighten out and get that tip to close up again, but I'm bordering on getting a new pair soon anyway. I've had these quite a long time. So we'll start off with a new pair with nice hardened edges that will be razor sharp. You've only got to point them at something and it cuts. So there we go. Can't take any more than that off, I don't think. Can't really get it any more than that. I've got a feeling that growth's going to go. We shall see. There's not a lot of point in keeping that, is there? We'll have that one off. Yeah, see, every now and again I'm cutting something near the very tips of these scissors and it's not cutting. They're losing their sharpness and they're losing their ability to be resharpened. So I have to invest in a new set, I think. Now I've lost a plant here, haven't I? No, I haven't. That's it. That's those two. Right, think time again. That's got them ready to do something with, but I still haven't actually made my mind up what I'm actually going to do. So we'll have to stop and have another think.